It's me, Mario!
Nostalgia. For many of us, it means sitting in our favorite spots, holding a controller and playing games on lazy afternoons. Life was easier, we had no worries, and above all, it was something new. The age of games was just around the corner. The company that opened the door for many of us, developed games, our constant companion in good and in bad times. Nintendo. Have you ever wondered how Nintendo became the gaming giant? Believe it or not, they started as a playing card manufacturer way back in 1889. From classic tabletop games to electronic devices like the beam gun, Nintendo has always pushed the boundaries of innovation. They created countless consoles which I loved as a kid. An incredible development that reached millions of people and changed the gaming industry forever. This is the story of Nintendo. We are going to focus specifically on home consoles in this video. So, how did it start? Nintendo released a line of 5 dedicated home consoles in Japan from 1977 to 1980. Each console featured an integrated controller and a specific set of games. In 1977, the color TV game 6 was presented. It basically contained only one game of Pong, but 6 variations of it. That's probably why the console was called Color TV Game 6. A whopping 1 million units were sold. A year later, the Color TV Game 15 was published, which again only contained Pong as a game, but this time in 15 variations. It was sold a bit over 1 million times. On the same day, they also released the Color TV Game Racing 112 console. But this time, it wasn't Pong anymore, but a racing game. This was the first project involving famed game designer Shigeru Miyamoto, who would go on to create iconic franchises like Super Mario and The Legend of Zelda. The racing console had been sold about 500,000 times. Then the Color TV game Block Breaker came in 1979, mimicking the famous Breakout game. Nintendo was also able to sell 500,000 units of this console. In 1980, the last console of this series came out, called Computer TV Game. It included the game Othello. You quickly noticed that the capacities were much lower 45 years ago than they are today. You needed an entire console just for a single simple game. Today, on the other hand, we dive into the most breathtaking worlds, where a single function probably needs more data and storage than all the games from back then. In 1985, one of the most famous Nintendo consoles came out, the NES, also called Famicom in Japan, an ingenious 8-bit console that sold almost 62 million copies. But let's go back 2 years. The gaming industry was in a big crisis, the video game crash of 1983. Also called the Atari shock in Japan. This was one, if not the biggest recession for the gaming industry. At that time, the market was saturated and flooded with cheap games of very poor quality. Then, the computer was released. People just weren't interested in home consoles anymore. This crash was so bad that the gaming market, which previously generated $3.2 billion annually, shrunk to just $100 million. That was a crash of 97%. Believe me, the gaming industry was on the verge of collapse back then. Here comes Nintendo. You could probably say that without the NES console, the gaming market as we know it today would not exist. The NES console was something very special. It had interchangeable cartridges allowing for a variety of games. Previously, an entire console had to be created for a single game. Its design was influential for consoles, and even its controller should still serve as inspiration today. And with the NES, iconic games like The Legend of Zelda, Metroid and Super Mario Bros. Were created. Zelda and Mario are two of the most popular game franchises in the world today. These games have been praised for their innovative gameplay and unforgettable characters. This was the beginning of Nintendo's rise. Not only the company was saved, but the entire gaming industry. In 1990, the SNES, the Super Nintendo or the Super Famicom, was presented, a 16-bit home console that catapulted game graphics into a new era, or at least made it possible. With its Mode 7 graphics mode, the creation of pseudo 3D effects was possible. This technique allowed games like F-Zero to be presented with smooth scaling and rotation on the tracks. Also, this console was accompanied by many games such as Super Mario World, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past and Donkey Kong Country. An interesting innovation was the possibility to connect other devices, such as the Super Scope Light Gun or the Super Multitap. They liked experimenting new ideas. So it's no wonder that this console was also a great success with 49 million units sold. To this day, the SNES is still one of the most popular retro consoles among collectors. In 1996, something wonderful hit the market, the Nintendo 64. My first Nintendo home console. I can confidently say that this console had a profound impact on my life. It was a groundbreaking console with advanced 3D graphics and a unique controller that was a mix of joystick and buttons. Additionally, it featured 4 controller ports, making multiplayer gaming on a single console even more popular. The games were simply perfect. Mario 64, which I spent days and nights playing, new Zelda titles like Majora's Mask, Mario Kart 64 and the legendary Super Smash Bros. A console I will never forget. This time, the sales figures were slightly weaker than before with 32 million units sold. It was the first time Nintendo faced truly strong competition, the PlayStation. But that's a different story. Let's move on to the year 2001. The 6th generation of gaming consoles was approaching, and with it came the Nintendo GameCube. It had a unique cubic design. With the GameCube, Nintendo turned its back on cartridges and switched to mini discs. Once again, the console was accompanied by iconic games like Animal Crossing, Pikmin, Pokémon Colosseum, Super Mario Sunshine and The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. However, the GameCube also had some weaknesses, such as the need for additional memory cards, weak games at launch, lack of online compatibility, and its childish design. The competition, the PlayStation 2, was simply the superior console in many aspects. Even though the GameCube was one of Nintendo's weaker consoles, they never ceased to introduce new ideas into the gaming industry. The next generation will prove that once again. One of the best known examples of Nintendo's innovation is the Nintendo Wii console, released in 2006. Motion control was used and revolutionized home consoles in their own way. The unique Wii controllers offered a new way to interact with games. It was also a nice alternation. Maybe that sounds a bit weird, but you could do sports with many games. One of the most famous games was probably Wii Sports. This game has almost become a cultural phenomenon. The console also came with online features and its own Wii Shop channel. They learned from the mistakes of the past. With over 101 million units sold, the Wii became the best-selling Nintendo home console at its time. Again, Nintendo has proven that they can rise from the ashes. 6 years later, in 2012, the next generation of consoles, the Wii U, was released. Unfortunately, this time everything that could go wrong went wrong. They were only able to sell just under 13.5 million copies. The biggest weakness was probably that nobody knew exactly why you should buy this console at all. Their new features weren't highlighted well enough by bad marketing. Many didn't even know that this was the new generation of Nintendo consoles. It was clearly a mixture of handheld and home console and was also the forerunner of the Nintendo Switch. The Wii U had interesting new features, such as a touchscreen. They also introduced Miiverse, an internal social network. The Wii U also offered high-resolution graphics, which the predecessor, the Wii, lacked. Also, games like Super Mario 3D, Splatoon and Super Smash Bros. Could not save the console. Unfortunately, even the name was chosen so badly. I mean, Wii U? They just put a U at the end. Of course, everyone immediately thinks that this is just another version of Wii and you won't need it. The worst thing was that the competition, PlayStation and Xbox, both brought strong consoles into the market. And again, Nintendo had to learn from their mistakes. After their greatest defeat, their greatest victory should follow. 5 years later, in 2017, the Nintendo Switch was released. This is also the latest Nintendo home console at the moment. It was a breathtaking console that was a hybrid of handheld and home consoles. The failure of the Wii U has now been transformed into something completely new. You could now play at home and on the go on a single console at the same time. The central unit of the console is a portable tablet with a multi-touch screen, which can be placed in a special docking station and can be connected to a TV for home gaming. So you could seamlessly pick up your Switch and play it on the TV. Additionally, the detachable Joy-Con controllers are an important part of the Nintendo Switch experience, allowing for both single-player and multiplayer gaming. These controllers can also be used as motion controllers like the Wii sticks. So you literally took all the good features from the previous consoles and fused them together. This time there were also fantastic games to start with, such as The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, one of the best Zelda games ever, which got a lot of praise for its innovative open world design. The game was bought 29 million times for the Nintendo Switch alone. The marketing was this time brilliant. You could see the new features straight away. You were immediately drawn into it. It was a good console for both young and adult. There were also other versions for the Switch, such as the OLED Switch, which was released in 2021. In total, the Nintendo Switch with all its versions has been sold over 125 million times so far. The Switch climbs to number 1 and is the most successful Nintendo console. Nintendo's history includes some of the most spectacular consoles ever. While the competition just brings the exact same console every year in an improved form, Nintendo has always dared to do something new. Anyone who creates something new will fail sooner or later, which we also saw with Nintendo. But that's exactly what the gaming industry needs, someone who dares to walk this path. Nintendo will always be a part of me. The incredible journey of Nintendo's evolution in the world of home consoles, leading to the innovative and versatile Nintendo Switch. From rescuing princesses to exploring vast worlds up to taking part in multiplayer battles, Nintendo has taken us on countless adventures, creating memories to last forever.